Hey guys, have you been experiencing lower back pain while lifting weights? Well, in this video, we'll look into some of the reasons as to why you may have that pain. Besides, of course, a herniated disc, which is another topic, we'll look into a very important technique that is foundational to preventing lower back injuries while lifting. And we'll also look into some stretches and strengthening exercises to help support your lower back. Before we go into the video though, if you're new to this channel and haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and also click on the bell icon so don't miss out on any of my future videos. With that said, let's get into the video. Reasons for lower back pain. Lower back pain can result from a number of things, including sudden twisting movements, the way we sit, slouching while at a computer desk, while texting or reading, and also from using an improper technique while lifting. But one of the main reasons for lower back pain while training, in my opinion as a personal trainer, is from having excessive anterior pelvic tilt. If you're someone who has a desk job, or if you're a driver, or just someone who spends a lot of time sitting, then you most likely have an anterior pelvic tilt. What is anterior pelvic tilt? An anterior pelvic tilt is when the anterior or front part of the pelvis drops forward and causes the posterior part to elevate. This in turn then leads to an increased curvature of the lower spine and upper back. It also increases the pressure on the lower back bones, causing a spiraling effect which eventually shows up as pain in the lower back area. Anterior pelvic tilt is the result of certain muscles that have gradually either become underactive or overactive. The overactive, stronger, tighter muscles are the erector spinae and hip flexors. The underactive, weaker and lengthened muscles are the hamstrings, abs and glutes. So as a personal trainer, one of the first things that I work on with my clients is to fix this anterior pelvic tilt and achieve a neutral spine by improving the mind-to-muscle connection in the lower back area. It is extremely important to have a neutral spine, especially while training. Having a neutral spine will help the spinal vertebrae to be safely stacked one on top of the other and also allow the core muscles to be used effectively in supporting the spine. It is something that very few people consciously attempt to do in their day-to-day lives or while training. How to achieve a neutral spine. This can be done by practicing pelvic tilts. The easiest way is to get onto your fours, place your hands under your shoulders and knees under your hips. If it's the first time you're doing this, then I would highly recommend using a mirror so you can see yourself performing this movement. We will be focusing on the lower back area. We want to isolate and tilt the pelvis by either curving it inward towards the floor or outward towards the ceiling. You could also think of this as dropping your belly button down towards the floor and then up towards the ceiling. Notice how moving the pelvis in either direction changes the curvature of the spine. Now try to stop at 3 different positions for 2 seconds. Once while in anterior pelvic tilt, then while our spine is neutral, and lastly in posterior pelvic tilt. You can also try doing it by placing one hand on your lower back. This will help with proprioception and help improve your mind-to-muscle connection. While doing this exercise, our goal is to understand the position of the pelvis and the spine so we can then mimic that movement while we are lying down, sitting or standing up, and especially while we train. If you suffer from an excessive anterior pelvic tilt, then your abs are going to be weak and mostly switched off as they are constantly in this lengthened position, meaning that we are unable to contract and engage them properly. This puts our spine in a vulnerable position and more prone to injury while training, as these core muscles play a vital role in supporting our spine. This is why it is so important to achieve a neutral spine. By doing this, we are consciously able to support our spine using our core muscles and also have the spinal vertebrae stacked safely on top of each other, thereby eliminating the chances of injury and lower back pain. To further ingrain this into the mind, I would recommend doing a set of pelvic tilts every time you train, either before you start your session or between sets. One last thing to bear in mind when lifting any object off the floor, including performing deadlifts, is that once you have achieved a neutral spine, remember to keep the weight close to the body. Retract your scapula and use your back muscles, hip hinge, and use the bigger, stronger muscles of your leg to lift the weight. This video will not go into deadlifting technique, but if you want to have a very quick look at what a hip hinge is, you can click on the link at the top of this video. So now that we've looked at anterior pelvic tilt and how important it is to achieve a neutral spine, let's get into the fun part of this video. Stretching and strengthening routine. So in this section, we'll be going over a few different movements. If you have any underlying back issues, please see your physiotherapist before attempting any of these movements. These stretches and exercises are meant to help fix your anterior pelvic tilt and promote good posture by stretching the tight muscles and strengthening the weaker, lengthened muscles. For each move, only go as far as your body allows you to go comfortably. You can slowly build up and progress on them over time by coming back to the video and following it, as this is a follow-along routine. As far as equipment goes, all you will need is a mat and a chair. Let's get started. We will start this routine on our fours by performing pelvic tilts. This technique here is the foundation to avoid lower back injury. It's one of the most important things you must learn before lifting any weights. We will perform this exercise for 30 seconds. We will also practice this on a chair and while standing. Moving onto the chair now. This will be a little harder than doing it on the floor. I highly recommend using a mirror for this, as it will help you see the position of your spine clearly. We will now perform the same drill while standing. In my opinion, performing this drill while standing is harder than performing it while seated on the chair and while on your fours. As you go from anterior pelvic tilt to posterior pelvic tilt, think about closing the gap between your belly button and sternum. Think also about squeezing your abs and understand as to when they stretch and contract as you switch from anterior to posterior pelvic tilt. Our next stretch is a knee hug. An anterior pelvic tilt will cause the erector spinae or the lower back muscles to get very tight, and this simple move will help stretch the lower back muscles. This stretch can be done with both legs or with one leg at a time. Only bring the knees as close into the chest as possible. Now that we've stretched the lower back, we will focus on the hip flexors. To do this, we will get onto one knee, tilt our pelvis into posterior pelvic tilt, and then bend onto the opposite side in order to get a deep stretch of the muscles. Once again, as with the other stretches, we will hold this one for 30 seconds. Now let's perform the same stretch onto the other side. So that's our stretches done. We will now focus on 2 exercises. One to strengthen the glutes and the other to strengthen the core muscles. This first one is called hip thrusts. While performing this exercise, we want to lie on our back and bring our feet in towards the glutes. We then want to tilt the pelvis to achieve a neutral spine and engage the core muscles. From here, we thrust our hips as high up as we can and lower them in a controlled manner. We breathe out as we thrust our hips up and inhale as we lower the hips to the mat. The last bit of work here is to strengthen the core muscles isometrically by performing a plank. There are many ways that the core can be worked, but I've chosen this exercise as it's an isometric exercise. This isometric exercise will train the core to stay engaged for a longer period of time. It's very important to perfect the form. As you see in this video, I first start on my knees in order to establish a neutral spine, and only then do I move onto my toes. If you're finding this hard, you can continue by staying on your knees and then progress onto the toes once you have built up sufficient strength. There is also the option of going onto your hands if you find staying on your forearms tough. So that's the video, guys. I hope you now know what might be causing you that lower back pain while lifting and how to fix it. So if you found this video useful, or if you thought that I missed out on something, please let me know in the comments below. Till next time, this is Carlton from Eternal Fitness. God bless you all.